In Kansas, too many children still struggle to read at grade level. But the story isn't just about struggling students. It's about the systems, the programs, and the leaders shaping how reading is taught. I'm Jesica Glover, and this is My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis, a documentary-style podcast about how students are left behind and what can be done to help them. In this season, called The Anatomy of Change, we take a look inside teacher preparation programs, classrooms, and among state-level leaders directing the future of literacy in Kansas. We talk with educators, parents, and experts about what works, from evidence-based curriculum and teacher training to coaching and assessment. You'll hear stories of students who found their footing when instruction finally matched the science of reading, and the systemic barriers that still hold too many kids back. Change isn't easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it is happening in Kansas and across the nation. And in this season, we'll show you how, why, and who is leading the charge. This is a story about systems, science, and people refusing to accept failure as the status quo. Because all our kids deserve to read, understand, and thrive right here in the Heartland. What happens when a school isn't just talking about the science of reading, but actually building everything around it? At the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center in Wichita, Kansas, students who once struggled to read are now thriving. Why? Because this place does things differently. Today, we're going inside Phillips to see how one center is changing lives, training teachers, and showing the rest of us what's possible when reading instruction is grounded in science, not guesswork. The story behind the center. The story of Phillips Fundamental Learning Center begins with heartbreak and hope.
My son Cooper couldn't read, not because he wasn't smart, but because no one had taught him how. I had to find answers myself.
Cooper was eventually diagnosed with dyslexia, a word that many schools still avoid. And Jeanine Phillips? She didn't stop at getting her son help. She created a center to help other kids too. To learn more about Cooper's story, please refer back to episode 2 from season 1. Founded in the year 2000, the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center started with one mission: teach children to read using methods that actually work and empower teachers with the training they never got. It's now a state-of-the-art laboratory school and training hub dedicated to the science of reading and structured literacy, 2 terms we'll unpack throughout this season.
When I hear stories like Jeanine's, I can't help but think of my own journey. I didn't learn to read until much later because there was no science of reading. However, I know firsthand the frustration, the shame, and the lost confidence that comes with spending years in school and not being able to read. That's why places like Phillips are so powerful. They're not waiting until kids fail. They're stepping in with real solutions, grounded in teaching that is based on how the brain learns to read.
A doorway in. Sometimes the best doorways to help come in unexpected packages. I met a friend at church who worked with struggling readers, and she suggested we have our daughter assessed. Even as a certified teacher with a reading endorsement, I didn't know why this assessment was worth it. I didn't know it would uncover the root of her reading difficulties, guide the right interventions, or provide hope for her future. Honestly, I didn't even know if paying $250 would be worthwhile. We wish we'd done it sooner. That assessment became the doorway to answers we'd been searching for, and it completely changed how we approached helping our daughter read.
I am Connie Thompson and Director of Assessment at the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center. My education has mostly come from the children and the parents who I've had the supreme privilege of meeting during the past 20 plus years. Unbelievable. But the academic struggle of bright youngsters who have not had the benefit of instruction that makes sense to their learning different brains has given me a whole array of information and education.
When a parent and a child come in for an assessment, what happens first?
It is so fantastic to meet the parent and the child. And so, of course, we introduce ourselves. But sometimes they're a little unsure about what's going to happen. So the child may fear testing and the unknown. A lot of times our learning different kids need the gift of time to become accustomed to a strange place, a different person, new sights, new sounds. What does all that mean? And the parent fears that their child will be labeled. But those fears vanish when the kids get to see the fish in the aquarium. They get their special name tag. They see that there's Legos to play with or art to do. It's their things that they can do. So after we introduce ourselves, we have some information that parents fill out. And then the kids get to have time with a specialist, about an hour, give or take. And then you can just see the kids light up when they hear that their parents get to have time also in the assessment room. Well, we get acquainted with them first. We listen for articulation. We listen for vocabulary, conversational skills, their interests, what they love to do. Just a really fun get acquainted time with the kids.
Yeah.
And then we delve into why. Phonological can be a little bit tricky, or reading or writing or spelling. It's not testing. It's just discovering how they learn the best.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely fun, but it's also very, very informative.
I appreciate how our two administrators up front are very welcoming and warm with each person that comes into our building. They make sure that the kid knows where they can go play while they're waiting for the assessor. They assure the parent of the things they can learn and read while they're waiting. Our area is clean and friendly and warm. And it's fun to be able to see what your child is doing, having been there myself, because there's a window so you can see everything that's happening.
Right.
And you can read their face just a tiny bit from the side.
And the child can see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, oftentimes they'll peek around the corner and look through that window to make sure mom's still there or dad.
Okay, you've talked about how long a typical assessment will take, an hour with the child. And then you spend an hour with the parent. After you have checked the child's phonemic awareness, decoding, fluency, comprehension. So what kind of report or feedback do you provide during that hour with the parents?
First of all, parents are listened to. That's the number one.
Yeah.
Because we want to understand where they've come from, to understand and listen to them, and then provide what they need, what prompted them to schedule an assessment. So the dialogue ensues to continue to put the pieces together and answer the question, why is my child struggling?
Yeah.
And we can tell from our assessment a really good feel and understanding of why a child struggles. Reading carries such a deep dignity, and literacy is not an option. I don't think I've met a child yet that goes, I do not want to learn to read.
Yeah.
They go to school with that desire. And when that doesn't happen, there's a reason. And we don't want to wait and wait and wait for them to catch up. And a lot of times behaviors come from that frustration of a bright child. The assessment just delves into so many different areas of understanding and then pointing the parent in the right direction.
Connie, what's your ideal time for a child to be tested as soon as mom has that mom gut feeling where they just know their child needs help, but they're not sure what to do? They're coming in here hoping to find out the why.
We begin assessments at 5.
Okay.
We can tell earlier than that.
Okay.
You know, like at 3 or 4 when we begin knowing if a child can rhyme, if they can count words and sentences, some of the phonological skills. But we begin our assessments about 5 years old.
Okay.
And go through 18. I would say it's never too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
Questions need to be answered. You need a plan. You're your child's best advocate and champion.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Because we empower parents to understand and unravel this bright, gifted child that they have who's not performing to their expectations or their potential in school.
A school that shows us the way. Tucked away in Wichita is something extraordinary, a school other states are starting to notice. Rolfe Literacy Academy, part of Phillips Fundamental Learning Center, blends the science of reading with compassion every day. It combines teacher training and a student-facing school under one roof, so parents and teachers can watch students who once struggled finally succeed. It uses Orton Gillingham-based curriculum, proven effective for struggling readers and endorsed by leading literacy experts. It's IMSLIC accredited, meeting the highest national standards for structured literacy. Rolfe is grounded in explicit systematic phonics, multisensory methods, and data-driven instruction. Research from the National Reading Panel in 2000 to a 2025 meta-analysis confirms these approaches boost reading and spelling for all learners, with the biggest gains when started in kindergarten. So why is a lab school like Rolfe so critical? It's not just for the kids, it's for the teachers and parents who get to see this approach in action. Today, I'm joined by Jill Hodge, one of our academic language therapists, CALPS, and instructor in the Andale Teacher Literacy Institute. Jill has spent years training teachers in evidence-based literacy practices, and she's passionate about what it really takes to change the trajectory for struggling readers. Jill, why is it so important to have a laboratory school like Rolfe Literacy Academy, not just for the kids enrolled, but for the teachers and parents who can actually see the model in action?
When you walk into Rolfe Literacy Academy, you see a school that looks different by design. Teachers are using explicit, systematic phonics instruction, multisensory methods, and data-driven practices. But you also see the whole child being nurtured. More recess time in nature, no playground structures, because we want kids climbing trees and stomping through the grass digging for shark's teeth. That movement and exploration resets their brains for the hard academic work. Half of their days in the arts, drama, music, visual arts, not as a side program, but as an intentional way of developing creativity and confidence. And they're also learning to self-advocate. Who am I? What are my strengths? How do I speak up for myself? That doesn't happen in most schools, but it's essential to lifelong success. And as a lab school, there's transparency, glass hallways, video observation, so teachers in training and even parents can see structured literacy in action. It's not just about teaching kids to read. It's about shifting the paradigm of education itself. Rolfe Literacy Academy exemplifies a model for the future of education, one that integrates evidence-based practices with a holistic approach to student development. This is not just a place. This is a movement.
Hi, my name is Denise Coons. I am a lifelong educator. I've had quite a few years teaching kindergarten, but I've taught through 4th grade. And I always have had a heart for the struggling reader, or the struggling learner, I guess I should say. My degree is in special ed and elementary ed, and I took special ed so that I would have tools to use in my regular classroom. Again, I always leaned towards that struggling reader, which has led me to the place I am now. In about 2014, my husband and I were both involved in a Christian school in Hutchinson, and we noticed that we were losing some students due to not being able to keep up with the curriculum at the elementary level. And that's concerning because many times then you lose the youngest student and you lose all of them in the family because you can't provide what they need in their area of education. I believe the year was 2014. Someone invited me to a conference that PFLC was putting on, and I got to hear Bennett and Sally Shaywitz of the Yale University. And I realized as I spoke about dyslexia and the struggling student and what could be done for them, that that was what I was seeing. Dyslexic students not be able to keep up with the curriculum because it was not being taught in the way that they could learn. And my husband and I discussed that. PFLC was putting on the introductory course for structured literacy interventionist, and we decided I was going to come to Wichita and take the course. It was the second evening that I called my husband to say, and I cried as I told him, this is what we're looking for. This is the need that we have in our school to reach these students, is structured literacy. And I am so excited to be the one to be able to do it. We must have a pull-out program for them, which we eventually did because I got a practicum student right off the bat. And it wasn't long and we had 2 therapists working full-time. We probably had 20 students that we were working with every day in structured literacy. It was a very busy time and it was very, very rewarding. And that led me to come here when our jobs changed. And I've started out here at PFLC doing assessments and working in teacher training. And now I'm the director of Rolfe Literacy Academy. Our teaching approach isn't generic. It's rooted in Orton-Gillingham methodology. That's a multi-sensory structured literacy approach that's proven to help students with dyslexia and other reading difficulties. So kids are taught how the English language is structured, from the phonemes to morphemes to syllable types. We're teaching them to understand what sounds make up each word, which is empowering. When we start teaching kids in a healthy way, as a result, they show gains. It's all about taking what we know works from the evidence-based science and providing the space to make it happen. We see little miracles here every day.
What excites me about Phillips is they're not reinventing the wheel. They're simply applying what decades of the NICHD research already tells us. The brain needs systematic, explicit teaching. It needs patterns and structure and practice. When schools honor the science of reading, kids don't just learn to read, they thrive.
This gem of a school does so much more than teach dyslexic children in a way that helps them successfully learn. It also transforms us as parents. Many families, besides those you'll hear from, have gone from feeling lost and desperate to becoming resources for others facing similar struggles, creating a positive cycle of support and hope.
It really only took about 3 months in a new academic environment where they were ready to teach him the way he learned. I mean, they had to go all the way back to the beginning. I mean, dude did not even know his letter sounds. He could maybe write his name, and he should have been going into first grade.
Yeah.
And it only took just a little bit of being with the right educators to absolutely turn him around.
We teach these children to advocate for themselves, and we tell them they have a superpower.
Yeah.
They have these amazing skills. For my daughter, she's extremely empathetic. She's an incredible artist. She's creative. And, with that dyslexia diagnosis, she's like, oh, okay, that reading and writing might be hard for me, but I have all these other amazing things about me. We were ready to jump in.
Okay.
And we're just ready to go. Just because we were searching for that for so long. We were desperate. Yes, I did all the trainings and started working with students, and just seeing other people's lives change is what's amazing. My kids are in a spot where I don't have to worry about them as much anymore, and I can jump in and help other families who are in the same boat I was.
Hi, my name is Michelle Howard, and I am a mom of 2. And 2 girls, beautiful girls, and I work for Young Life in the Wichita Public Schools, and my husband works for the city of Wichita. We had to live at a private Christian school, and they started noticing that she could not recognize numbers and letters, and they had started kind of the tutoring process before COVID. After COVID, we decided to homeschool, and I was lost in how to help her, and reconnected with one of the tutors that actually was trained here at Fundamental Learning, and She helped me, but she was like, she needs more help and recommended coming to Rolf. And so we got her enrolled and just shifted everything. Her confidence came back, her joy came back. They just did such a good job of focusing on her gifts and her strengths and really catering to those, and then helping her in the areas that were really difficult. It shifted everything. That's the best word to describe, is she's thriving. It's been such a gift, and it has changed our lives.
And the student experience is what brings a big smile to a parent's face. Like PFLC founder Jeanine Phillips often says, we're in the business of literally saving lives.
Hi, my name is Audrey Mangel, and I'm a former student of Phillips Fundamental Learning Center, and I am wanting to be a special education teacher, and I am an author of a dyslexia awareness book. When I came here, I was 6 or 7 years old, and I was going into second grade. Before, I was very sad. I didn't understand what was wrong with me, and I was just very different from my classmates. And then when I came here, it was very liberating, and I felt seen, and it just felt great to have that confidence back. Immediately, I felt seen. I felt like this was the first time that somebody actually understood and was able to understand my brain and how I functioned and what I needed. It felt like I didn't have to fight them on what I needed, and was able to just kind of be me. There was a lot of different moments in my education journey that I felt like the shift in me. There was one time when I was learning with Miss Denise, and I was doing math actually, and I was crying. I didn't think that I could do it. And then she figured out how I could actually learn how to do it. And all of a sudden I stopped crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can learn.
I'm Olivia Howard, and I am starting my 3rd year, and I'm 11. My first year, my teachers made me feel like more secure, felt better than other schools. But like here, I know all my teachers, they help you out. And before, I was in like a really, really big class, and it was kind of hard to get to the teacher and like ask her questions. But like now, I like that I'm in like a tinier class, so that it's easier to ask them questions. They won't maybe tell me later. Like they'll tell me like maybe in that same minute, and they'll help me out.
Do you still feel like you need to hide?
No.
What's made the difference?
That I actually get to do what I need. Everything that I need is in front of me, and I can actually learn. Yeah.
So would you say that you're getting the tools you need to learn successfully?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thanks for being willing to share with me today.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes it stirs up painful points, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, 2 months into her 2nd year, this same child is advocating for herself, confident RLA is providing what she needs because she's reading.
I want to stay another year at Rolf. I know that I wanted to move to Washington and live with Nana and Grandpa, or move to Colorado, but I want to stay at Rolf because I'm getting what I need. I like my teachers, and I like my friends there, and I love just being there and being with people there and taking care of chickens and going outside and doing math and doing reading and reading books and doing science experiments, eating lunch, and I even like it when it's inside recess, even though that is not as fun.
So what's one gain that you've made at Rolf Literacy Academy that has surprised you this year?
I'm reading, and last year I didn't read at all. I'm reading Cooper. It's a dog story.
These stories aren't rare. According to internal data, 85% of students who attend RLA improve their reading scores by at least one full grade level within the first year. They've worked with over 2,000 children and trained more than 5,000 educators. This isn't just a school, it's a blueprint, and it's built on what the National Reading Panel, the science of reading, and decades of cognitive research already told us. Reading isn't natural. It must be taught, and it can be taught to every child. The other mission, training teachers. Phillips doesn't just teach kids, it trains educators, teachers who were never taught how to teach reading. Through Andale Teacher Literacy Institute, parents, teachers, and administrators learn to effectively teach all children, and particularly those with dyslexia, how to read, write, and spell. All the courses offered by ATLI are based on the science of reading and include the grammar case, the fundamental case, the sound case, and alphabetic phonics. Courses are designed with evidence-based structured literacy instruction that enable teachers to teach the way the brain learns to read.
Hey, my name is Chartel Grissom. I'm teaching in my first year here at RLA, and I've been through multiple trainings now, and I just remember being in the training sessions and things just started to click. But I really have enjoyed learning each letter's sound, just to know that a letter has a sound and it changes, and that there's reasons why they change. I was one of those people growing up where when I read things, I just enjoyed language, I enjoyed people, so I always just try to figure something out. So I could understand how to read a word and put the emphasis or the accent in the right position until I ran into something I couldn't decode, and I didn't know I was decoding until I got here and started taking the trainings, and I started to realize this is why the A will change its sound. It's because it's next to these other letters. And it's super significant because it can even change the meaning of a word. Each letter has its sound, but it changes its sound depending on who it's standing by, what other letter it's near. Is really an amazing tool for our young readers who are just trying to learn the code of reading. For example, if I was to read the word ice, the I would say I because the E behind the C is making the I say its long sound. I just find it interesting that when you put letters together, they can change their sounds. And there's a very particular reason for that, and it's because of whoever else they're beside.
I love that. So you really discovered that letters have voices. They talk.
Right.
That's exciting.
Hi, I'm Denise Richolano, and unbelievably, I've been teaching for 30 years and my 12th year here at Rolfe Literacy Academy. And it was my desire and passion to teach children to read that led me to Fundamental Learning Center. So I moved here to Wichita in 2010. I was teaching at a private school, and Jeanine and her team came to the school and presented the simulation. And I was like, I could not believe that this instruction available to us. And I was just overwhelmed. I had to have this training. There's dyslexia in my family, and I had seen the destruction and the difficulty that was, growing up in a household with someone who had that. So I was seeking every opportunity to know more about how to teach children to read so that everyone could be successful in my classroom. And I could not believe here was this extraordinary opportunity and people weren't taking advantage of it. So it was in 2013 that I was finally able to get the funding, and I started my training. And then I continued my training in 2014, and it was in the fall of 2014 then that I was hired as a language therapist here at the Fundamental Learning Center. And I was also asked to teach mathematics because I understood the profile of our children. I had the knowledge about the best practices, the research behind that enabled me to select a program and to build a mathematics program that enables our children to be successful. So if anyone takes the training on Stern, right away, anyone who's had our training in the AP training will say, this is just AP for math. So that's what it has enabled me to make our mathematics program so successful here.
That makes me really excited.
And we know those language challenges, they don't stop at the door of the AP room.
Yeah.
It travels with them into math, and math has its own language. And if we don't understand the language of math, then we can't understand the concepts. Mm-hmm. So when I found it, but it was because of my knowledge and understanding that I received in my training here that enabled me to look at those programs and to see the one that would be the right one as a foundation for a mathematics program here. So my practice has gone from sharing with children what I know to giving them the opportunity and allowing them to discover the concept, see it, and then share with me what they've learned. That really respects and honors who they are, because now they feel like they're the ones who were able to see it, right? So they share with me what they see. Our materials are very unique. So our materials that we use in the classroom are very intentional in that they can see the true representation of the number. So they can see that 7 has properties that are characteristic only of 7. We can see that it's an odd number. We can see that it can be divided into subsets 3 and 4, or 5 and 2. I can see that 7, when placed beside 3, measures the same as 10. So those materials, along with the devices or boards that we use that are self-correcting, so if a child puts in an incorrect block, he or she can see right away their error, and they can see why, and they can correct it themselves. So these materials allow me to make all of the number relationships and the concepts visible. So children actually see it. They tell me what they see.
That's so powerful.
So it's their own discovery.
Yeah.
So they recognize their ability to learn.
Yeah.
Right? They don't need me to tell them. They can see it and discover it on their own. That is very empowering for our children.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I get to work with a whole team who understands these children. And so when they move from teacher to teacher, everyone understands how they learn. And there's consistency and intentionality, and that makes our children successful. And it doesn't just change them academically. I get to sit at conferences and hear over and over again, I have my child back. She's happy again. She's smiling. She's coming home and sharing what she knows. She's not crying every night. The stomach aches have gone away. She's happy. And isn't that and in learning here, if you walk in our building or you walk into my classroom, it's joyful. It's happy. Children want to be here.
Yeah.
They love being here. They love telling me how smart they are and coming to the table every day and saying, I know what you're doing. I've got this. You're not fooling me today, you know?
Yeah.
I want them to feel that. And that's what we get to do here every day. So I know we're making a difference.
When it comes to preparing future teachers to teach reading, Kansas is making progress. But we're not there yet. According to the National Council on Teacher Quality's 2023 Teacher Prep Review, Kansas ranks above the national average for how well its teacher prep programs teach the 5 key components of reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. But here's the catch. Out of 6 programs reviewed in Kansas, only half earned an A for fully covering all 5 components in depth. The rest either missed critical areas like fluency instruction or even included methods that run contrary to the science of reading. In other words, while some Kansas universities are aligning with what research says about how children learn to read, others are still leaving new teachers underprepared. And that gap shows up in our classrooms, where only 31% of Kansas 4th graders read at a proficient level. Kansas has started to act. New literacy standards, teaching training initiatives, and the upcoming Seal of Literacy requirement will ensure educators demonstrate knowledge of the science of reading in 2028. But policy alone isn't enough. That's where places like Phillips Fundamental Learning Center are stepping in, offering a model of what right training looks like and proving that when teachers are equipped with structured literacy tools, every child can learn to read.
This is where my passion lies, with teacher knowledge. Because if we don't equip teachers with the science of reading, we're setting them up to fail. And that means kids fail too. What Phillips is doing is empowering educators with knowledge based on the best scientific evidence available to guide their instruction. That's how we change literacy rates across this country.
Real lives changed. The result at Phillips Fundamental Learning Center's Andale Teacher Literacy Institute speak volumes. Okay, today we are interviewing teachers from the state of Kansas, and I have with me
Emily DeGraff.
Awesome. So Emily, will you share with us how you got involved with education and how you came to be connected with recognizing that you needed some reading training?
Yeah, I decided that me and my husband decided we were going to homeschool our children. And I thought it was going to be really straightforward. Like, you buy the curriculum, you teach your kids, and your kid just gets it, and bam, you're good to go. And it was not that way. When I started teaching my first to read, that went pretty smoothly, and he learned to read decently well, still with a lot of gaps. But then I started teaching my second child, and it was awful. I mean, we had so many tears. She could not remember the letters. She couldn't remember the sounds. And I thought, what's going on here? And she definitely couldn't blend sounds. And so it just wasn't straightforward. And then I decided we needed to get her tested for dyslexia. That was from a recommendation from one of my friends at church.
Oh, wow.
So we came here to the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center, and she does show all the signs of dyslexia. They gave me a few options, and I decided, well, I might as well learn to teach her myself. And the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center has a class that they take you through on how to teach children with dyslexia.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
And I am really looking forward to next year teaching my daughter and filling in a lot of gaps that I had. When I was teaching her to read, she would have questions like, well, why does the A say this sound and this sound? And I would just be like, I don't know. The English language is just confusing. You just have to memorize, or you just have to read enough to know. Mm-hmm. And what I didn't know was that it's actually, you can decode the words. You can decode the syllables, the words. And that's what I'm learning right now. And it's helping me with my reading.
Wow.
And if I can understand it, I can teach my kids to understand it. And that's what I'm excited about.
After 2.5 months of alphabetic phonics instruction with her 8-year-old, Emily has watched her daughter transform from slow, choppy reading to fluently reading at a late kindergarten to first grade level. Truly incredible progress. Then there are families benefiting from the expertise of teachers trained at the Andale Teacher Literacy Institute within Phillips Fundamental Learning Center. Parents Aaron and Gabby Roach turned to a language intervention specialist, Brooke Hammond, after their son struggled in school. Over 6 months of targeted research-based support has helped him make incredible gains in reading. The Roach family has generously given us permission to share their story. My almost 9-year-old has struggled with school since the very beginning, so much that we held him back in preschool, thinking he just wasn't ready and would catch on better with a repeated year in pre-K. In kindergarten, we really started to notice him falling behind, but we were assured that some kids just learn slower than others and that he would catch up. The following year in first grade, he did awesome. Still struggled, but his teacher went above and beyond to help him, and then came second grade. Second grade was a huge struggle. He again had a great teacher, but school was so frustrating for him, which led to behaviors at home, not wanting to read or practice anything related to learning. He did awesome with mental math, but would get completely lost in word problems. We would practice reading at home, and turning the book page and seeing a repeated word was like he was just seeing it for the first time. He was so frustrated. We reached out to our family doctor, and he recommended a dyslexia screening due to his own child being dyslexic and our stories sounding so similar. We did testing outside of school, twice just to be sure. once by a private screener and the second time at Phillips Fundamental Learning Center. In January of 2025, Carter was diagnosed with moderate dyslexia. To say school and life were a struggle prior to diagnosis and intervention would be an understatement. School was so stressful for him, trying to put the pieces together all day long and attempting to understand what he was supposed to be doing was exhausting in itself, which then rolled into our evenings at home. Carter started tutoring 2 nights a week in Pratt shortly after Christmas break. His tutoring is specifically structured for dyslexic kids and utilizes alphabetic phonics. The overall change in him has been huge. His attitude, frustration, anxiety has all improved so much. At the end of the school year, he received his final benchmark scoring, and we were completely blown away at his improvement. Carter's life in and out of school has changed so much. He is so much happier. He's not constantly agitated, and it's not a battle to get him to read or do math. He won't outgrow dyslexia, but providing him the tools to help him learn to help himself differently than his peers has helped him so much in just a few months. What you can learn from Phillips. From student assessments to teacher training to our lab school, Phillips Fundamental Learning Center is ready to help families, teachers, and schools. Parents, request an assessment, sign up for training to support daily practice at home, or apply for Rolf Literacy Academy, students ages 5 to 9. Applications are open until Christmas break and tours are available daily. Teachers and school leaders, explore training at the Andale Teacher Literacy Institute. Visit funlearn.org or call 316-684-7323 and tell them you heard about Phillips on Why Can't My Child Read?
At Phillips Fundamental Learning Center in Wichita, Kansas, we believe every child deserves the power to read. That's why we created Rolf Literacy Academy, a full day school for children aged 5 to 11 with dyslexia and other reading struggles. Here, students don't just get by, they thrive. With one teacher for every 4 children, we provide intensive, research-based instruction, assistive technology, and the confidence every learner deserves. Parents finally see progress, kids discover their strengths, and families find hope. Just next door, our Andale Teacher Literacy Institute equips educators and parents with the same tools, so change can spread far beyond our walls. Rolf Literacy Academy isn't just a school, it's a movement where the science of reading comes alive and where struggling readers become thriving learners. Call us at 316-684-7323 or visit funlearn.org to schedule a tour or learn more today.
So, what can other schools and states learn from Phillips? Here's the takeaway. Teach reading explicitly and systematically. Train teachers in the science of reading. Invest in curriculum and coaching that align with structured literacy. Support students with dyslexia through early screening and intervention. Phillips Fundamental Learning Center is showing us what happens when we stop blaming kids and start changing the system. Let's hear from Jeanine Phillips.
Children who struggle to read aren't broken. The system is, and it's our job to fix it.
Next time, we dive into the science inside the brain, what actually happens when a child learns to read, and why this science has been ignored for so long. Until then, keep asking questions, keep pushing for better, and remember, every child deserves the chance to read, right here in the Heartland. Thanks for listening to My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. If today's episode resonated with you, if you saw yourself, your child, or your classroom in these stories, you're not alone. We believe every child can learn to read, and every parent and teacher deserves the knowledge to help them. I invite you to take action today by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode, rate and review to help others find this series, and tell us about your story and discover how the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center is changing lives through literacy at funlearn.org/podcast. That's funlearn.org/podcast. And share this show with a friend, teacher, or fellow parent who needs to hear it. All resources, source credits, and tools mentioned in this episode can be found in the show notes. Remember, together we can rewrite the story one reader at a time right here in the Heartland.